Hello and welcome to Nikky Lyle Creative Presents with Industry Leaders, where today I'm joined again by Mark Fleming, who is founder of Rosie Lee and also a recent founder of Against Time. Welcome, Mark. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you for having me. And, it's been a great, I've really enjoyed this. I think you learn a lot about yourself through putting yourself under this kind of microscope. Does that kind of make sense? It's kind of it's very daunting, I suppose, if you think about it. But revealing is probably a better word.
Yeah, exactly. So the last time, if anyone wants to catch up with the other session that we've had, it's all, you can listen to them on the podcast and the video on YouTube. But what I really want to discuss with you today, Mark, is this new business that you've created, Against Time. But first off, could you tell us a bit about yourself and how you started out in the industry?
Okay, so hi, I'm Mark Fleming, Global Creative Director, founder of Rosie Lee. Where did it begin? Many years ago in a galaxy far away type stuff. I think I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a career in the creative world. I've worked in one or two places, but really, from one point of view, Rosie Lee is the only place I've really tangibly been. I formed the company 20 years ago. Lucky enough to have our first client was an amazing friend, producer, Andrew Weatherall. Second client was Nike. And then from there, it just kind of took off. It just kind of a series of happy accidents, opportunities, and then when luck came its way, grabbed it both hands, and here I am now.
And you've, like, from running Rosie Lee for 20 years, you've weathered the storm for a couple of recessions and seen some real industry changes. But what made you decide to create Against Time?
Well, 20 years is a long time, from one point of view. It's one of the reasons I moved to New York, change. You needed to kind of mix things up. I see some of our team coming and going. I see them moving. It's very, very weird to be like an owner director, where you see kind of people traveling around, I'm moving around, I've done this, I've done that. So it's as great and as happy as I am with our achievements as Rosie Lee, as a person, I needed to grow. I needed to create space for things to happen. And I think when I came back from New York, Rosie Lee wasn't the same in that respect. The guys were doing a great job. I've kind of made myself somewhat redundant in that respect. And I think the writing was on the wall, especially when you live in New York, or you see some of the things that we get involved with, and you see that things aren't working, brands aren't really connecting. I don't know, it just seemed like something was broken, and I wanted to, could be broken in myself, actually, if you think about it. I'm not saying I'm here to fix, but like something was at odds, and I believed that I needed to try something different. But then I kind of, in speaking to others, I think they too were lost as well. And I think there was a whole kind of stream of people around me that were all kind of saying, yeah, something's off. I can't put my finger on it. So we just went for it, as we kind of talk more, some of the aspects of Against Time will come to the fore.
So what's the main differences between Against Time and Rosie Lee?
Rosie Lee is like a world-class, highly respected agency working with epic brands like Nike, Coty, Beats, Converse, Jordan, StockX. It's all the big brands. It's all the epic, sort of things. And these brands are epic, but also it puts you on a pedestal, and and it makes you kind of, for certain people, you know, there are clients coming to us now specifically because of that. But there are many who aren't talking to us because we feel that, oh, they look unapproachable, or they won't be interested in us, or they look expensive, or do you know what I mean? So one of the reasons really was is to give access and have just a different point of view. You know, does that kind of make sense? It's almost like,
Yeah,
you know, we don't want anyone to feel intimidated. You know, we're very, very accessible. You know, I can imagine people probably don't think that, but that was one of the reasons as well. It's like, how do we share our tools, our skills with people that ordinarily may not think of us or approach us?
And then, so as against Time, the startup agency that's more approachable, can take on different types of projects and clients compared to Rosie Lee.
One word you said there that gives me the heebie-jeebies: agency.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly feeling that word. There's a couple of things that I'm not particularly feeling, like clients, consumers. Those words are obviously understandable because people like to put people in boxes, understandably. But I'm fighting very hard to not be an agency, because when you see agency, then everyone goes, oh, agencies. You know, they're, you know, people obviously right or wrongly assume the good or bad thing. And again, from a Rose Lee point of view, we started, you know, a lot of people asked us, what do we do? And again, there, I fought for years. Like, you know, I think we even had a tagline, we're like a pigeon that won't fit in a box. You know, there's even things like that. And, you know, I fought and fought and fought being defined. And it's coming back again in against Time. You know, I don't want to be seen as a branding company. I don't want to be seen as graphics. You know, we're doing more than that. Some of the things we're doing are like community-based, social-based strategy. You know, we were even discussing this morning prior to school. We're almost architects, if you think of it. You know, it is trying not to be limited in perception.
Yeah. What phrase or word, I know you don't like boxing or pigeonholing, and we've had discussions in the past, Mark, and we about normal. What is normal? What is a new normal? It's a new abnormal, and all the rest of it. What, if there was to be a name other than agency, would there be one, or would you prefer that there wasn't? It was just left open.
Well, you know, I meet people now, and like, you know, even people when you log on to Instagram or TV or wherever it is, you're seeing musicians that are fashion brands, you're seeing architects being DJs, you're seeing, you know, that's the thing. It's very interesting where people are becoming somewhat polymaths. Not everyone kind of navigates and does that very, very well. I think I'm gravitating to the words platform. I'm gravitating to the words, or not community, because again, community kind of feels a different thing. A new vocabulary needs to be established, you know, because sometimes these one words don't really describe really it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, platform's a great word. What were your main observations in 2020?
It was a battle, really. I think you could see that things needed to change. You know, the world was upside down, ripping itself apart. There was obviously heartache, stress. You know, people were like lost, and arguably still are. But one of the observations was that I was inspired a lot by those people who stood up, those people who I don't know, that chose to be uncomfortable. Those people, do you know what I mean? It kind of just made me think. Again, just reaffirmed what I'm feeling, and I'm sure many of your viewers and everyone that may listen to this is feeling. You know, something needed to change. I think another observation to keep it within a work within this kind of creative thing is digital is not the future. You know, if digital is the future, how come I'm zoomed out? You know what I mean? It's like digital. Don't get me wrong, it's it is amazing, but I think moving forward, a physical and tangible things powered by digital tools can be more empowering. You know what I mean? If digital is so brilliant, how come people who have been homeschooled are, you know what I mean? So I think a weaving together of digital and physical and human connection with, I know I've seen an integration of this. Augmented is a word that I use a lot, but that doesn't really describe it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what 2020 made us, we've all been put under house arrest, and digital has been the only where we've been able to communicate, but we're all dying to be in environments together again, actually, and it's made us realize the true value of that.
Yeah, the warmth of yeah. Some people are good with it, some people aren't. I kind of struggle with it, but yeah, I do think an integrated, future is something that's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, definitely. So what sort of clients are you working with Against Time?
Okay. NDAs aside and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, we're working on lots and lots of currently working with startups, entrepreneurs, people. I think you even met the Wave Gen team. They contacted us day one. We announced they're our first clients. These young women are kind of really trying to redefine what is ethical, sustainable fashion. We're working with Dose. We're working with a textile engineer in Wales who does it globally to challenge what is sustainable fashion. Working with Nifty. Probably shouldn't talk about that one too much. And also we're working with like Kazi, which is an artisan kind of brand based in Rwanda, where they have over 400 artisans making beautiful woven products to be sold in mostly America and some parts of Europe, and kind of like really trying to mobilize in that brand to kind of be more, to do more good. And then from that, we're moving into brands like Tego, Preview, and things like that are kind of looking to be disruptive within the physical and sports space. And and a couple of other things. So it's very hard. A lot of the things that we are doing is very much Siri. Oops. But funny how Siri just seems to listen at the wrong time.
Always.
Always. I think we're doing a lot of kind of top level work. We're helping like a makeup brand, a sports movement brand, like repivot and reconnect. So there's lots of things that are coming out this year.
Yeah, and how have you attracted? Because they sound like, I love the sound of like all the entrepreneurs and like the startups and sustainability companies you're working with. How did you get those clients? Were they just approach you, or?
Oddly, we haven't done anything, and I say that we've never stopped really. We word of mouth, doing calls like this, just being in a conversation, listening to people, and kind of being like that. And we've had a couple of some great people who have been ambassadors for us that kind of linked us up with people. When you talk like this, you'll meet someone else. Yeah, I know this great person. A lot of people kind of hook you up and kind of make things happen, and it's been kind of somewhat organic. We haven't advertised, from one point of view. We've got no portfolio to promote. We've got, what I mean, but somehow through word of mouth and just through doing good work, it's kind of spreading organically.
I always find that wherever you put your intention, energy and focus, that's where the results seem to come towards you, like a magnetic pull almost.
I'm a great believer in serendipity, you know, to quote, I can't remember who said it was probably Joe or something like that. You know, he works very hard to be as lucky as he is. You know what I mean? It's like the universe will kind of work with you if you kind of play in that space.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm a full believer in that. Like, you prepare yourself for luck, and then when the opportunity presents itself to you, you're ready for it. So how do you decide if clients are Rosie Lee or against time clients? Is there ever
Arm wrestling. No, it's interesting because I obviously I wear, it's a bit of duality in one respect because I do wear both hats, but I think really fit, you know, that's what I mean. We've got brands coming to us and we go, do you know what, this would probably sit better within against time, within our skill sets or whatever, you know, the way the client wants to work, you know, how, you know, budget or aspirations or things like that. And then if it's something else, then maybe we can go to Rosie Lee. And then also helps differentiate the both offerings, you know, but then saying that we do collaborate all the time, you know, what's the point of having this resource? You know, we view them, you know, all our entities, whether it's Froome, Creative, or something we call Central, which we'll probably talk about later, and Against Time are like a family, and they obviously bicker and squabble, but invariably we come together and play together.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Almost like sometimes even when you get family or twins, there's obvious differences between each sibling and each individual as a person as well, with their personality.
Yeah, it's you know, ultimately, you know, holistically, if they win a project, we win. If that we win, it's like, again, it's a team effort. You know, it's just being a bit more kind of grown up about it. And again, our differences is what makes us really great.
Mm. And how do you predict the new abnormal will look like? I know we've spoken about digital and spaces and people wanting to be back in spaces and merging the two. Are there any other predictions that you have?
We talk about this a lot. Even yesterday, Tom was talking about, you know, what is a career, what is training, what is a job, even within our organization. We talk about flattening the business, we talk about self-management, we talk about transparency and things like that. But I think the new abnormal, this is set in motion. We can't undo this. I think ever changing will be the new normal. There will be no certainty, you know, which I think it's daunting. You know, but I choose to be somewhat optimistic, you know, and I can write my own script, you know, in that respect. And I think, you know, there's probably a lot of people out there that are going, oh shoot, what can I do, whatever. Well, you're actually quite empowered. And I think ultimately being flexible, adaptable, you know, if anything, you know, who would have thought this last year you could even win it as a film, you know, and then now we've seen that anything can really, really happen. Right, so I think just being robust enough and resilient enough and adaptable is really the only way to kind of get through this.
Yeah, exactly. And I've personally found that this uncertainty, for me, I've found it very exciting because I can see lots of opportunities for creativity and new ways of doing things actually, and new leaders coming up through the ranks as well that may not have been listened to from the old worlds that now have a voice.
I mean, we'll talk about it a bit later. I can imagine there's a lot of people that want stability, that want certainty, and I even hear it from my teams, and I can't, and I sometimes I come over as a bit antagonistic, I suppose, but I would say I don't know what the future is, and I don't know, you know, I have a guess, but I can tell you what will happen if we do nothing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, if we do nothing, we won't be here tomorrow or this or that. So I think the really to kind of to be, literally be on the move is the only real way to really kind of, the only real future I think we can kind of have.
Yeah, which is why I find it so interesting that Rosie Lee is an established platform, and then you've evolved and you've moved forward and been proactive with Against Time as well, which seems to be reflective and art and trying to support these new changes that have been happening.
Well, I mean, just to clarify, Rosie Lee is changing and adapting too,
Yeah.
but Against Time is able, because there's no preconceptions. If we want to turn, if we want to change our operating systems, or, don't use Trello or Slack, we can. If you go to Rosie Lee and go, hey, I want to change this, they go, ooh, so we're able, because it's a clean slate, we're able to make new mistakes. Whereas I think with Rosie Lee, obviously they've got systems in place which enables them to do epic projects, for epic brands around the world. So there is certain structure that organization needs. If you're going to give it Air Max Day or do a big global thing like with the Oakley campaign we've just done, you're going to need some sort of structure to cope with that, or else you just get bulldozed. So they are flexing too, they are evolving too. But I think Against Time is being a little bit more nimble with that, and we're testing new things like Toggle, we're testing new things like that, and then we're going proof of concept. Hey guys, Toggle's really cool, right? And then now Toggle's, as of January 4, Toggle's been used by all our businesses. So yeah, we're at, from one point of view, we're a kind of test bed for other things, and for the other organizations we work with, like Preview or Digo, or so we can go, hey, we've learned this, maybe you can speak to your clients like this. So yeah.
And what do you look for when hiring talent these days?
It's kind of always been the same, but never more needed now, is passion, and having a North Star. We design more than just graphics. We shape and steer and control. What I mean? Like we were talking earlier about architects. Victoria at the moment, yeah, she's designing the identity for Kazi, but actually she's shaping how that whole organization works and brings money to the artisans in Rwanda. What I mean? It's actually more seismic than that. So her values are being played out real time on the project, as opposed to her, in conjunction with her aesthetic. So does that kind of make sense? It's like, if she can bring your whole self, because we can utilize your whole self, then our partners and our clients, or I'm trying to use the client, but the people we work with, they can engage fully with that.
Yeah. And how have you seen, I know you don't like the word consumers, but I'm trying to think of a different word, but individuals' mindsets have changed?
I hope. I sometimes I watch the news and I see stuff and I kind of go, I look and go, crikey. But then I like to think that the audience out there are demanding more of the brands that they buy from, expecting more from government. I think everyone's been a lot more transparent and holding people a bit more accountable, right? But then equally, I do see people queuing outside Primark, and I kind of like go, I kind of scratch my head a little bit when I go, hang on, here we are talking about climate crisis, and then you've got other people queuing up outside Primark, and I go, well, so I see two worlds. I do see there's going to be a kind of like a revolution of where, there's conflict, because I think that we're giving out mixed signals, and I think, it's down to, I don't know, I'm hoping that, people, everyone, their audiences or communities or whatever you kind of describe them, just being a bit more wiser with what they do, because what they do matters, because it ripples through time and commerce and everything.
Yeah, well, this is what you would hope, that since some people said the planet's grounded us, they're like, right, go to your room and sit and think about what you've done and what you're doing and reflect. And most people have been reflecting, but I also wonder what sort of individuals are we going to meet post lockdown. So obviously some people are being radicalized at the moment on social media, where we know of some individuals that just sit on Facebook, and social media just gives you an echo chamber of content, and you just go into that hole. And we've seen that with like anti-vaxxers and people being like distrusting of government, etc. And I wonder, who are we going to meet once we're let out of our homes again, and then we'll be having conversations down the pub, and what will people really be saying? Like, what journey have they been on?
Well, I think that's what conversation, that's a great word. As long as we're talking, I don't care if you've got a different point of view to me, as long as I respect your differences and you're not going to ram it down my throat. You know, maybe there's a conversation you can change my opinion or vice versa. Dialogue really, I think, is what's bringing back, you know, what needs, you know what I mean? And this polarization that sometimes, you know, algorithms kind of bring and things like that. Yeah, I just think mutual respect and understanding. I mean, that's as old as time, but I think never before is it needed.
Yeah, well, this is it. Like, conversation, as you said, Mark, it's essential, and not enough of it has been had, where people have just been insular within their own environments, just consuming whatever they choose to consume. So it'd be good to have
Yeah,
some.
you know, I'm sure the team won't like it. Like earlier, I think it was last week or this week, we were on a call, and then someone says, "Hey, you know, uh, there's the person was saying, hey, sorry, I've messed up. Tell your finance team, like I'll sort it out later, and let me know her address. I'll send her some stuff." And I'm going, no. Just say thank you. He said thank you. The client said thank you. That's all we need. You don't need to send boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. You know, and they had some of the people on the call going, what, you're saying no to free stuff? And I'm going, yeah, just thank you. Wicked. That's all we need. Thank you. And make, you know, and think of this again. You don't really need to send boxes of stuff, you know. And, you know, we had a call afterwards where our team said, hey, I could have done some nice stuff. And I'm like, really? You're not going out, right? So you're not going to wear them, you know. So come on, guys. It was just, you know, we talk about it a lot, you know, reduce, reuse, recycle, but there's actually another R, you know, refuse. You know, yeah, if you really want that, ask them, and I'm sure the brand, this particular brand, will send it to you. But yeah, it's just to hold each other accountable. I think is, you know what I mean. Start with yourself and take it from there.
Yeah, well, I really like that phrase, actually, Mark. That's why I always love it when we chat. Like, refuse. I'd never even thought of that. Actually, say no. Let's just
Yeah,
stop.
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I've got enough sneakers, thank you. You know, do you know what? Don't send it to me. There's a community around the corner. Send them some football boots, or do you know what? I'm good, thank you. Auction it for charity and give it to whatever. No, I'm good, thank you. You know, so it's again like that. That's where I'm trying to start. Again, it's easy for me to say that, but like I drew a line with that. Well, my wife actually called shit a couple of years ago when I got given some stuff, and she says, "Why have you accepted these?" And I go, "Well, I thought they were kind of cool." And she said, "They're horrible." And I go, "Yeah." And then I thought, "Oh God, you know." Well, to be honest, I actually did like them, but it was obviously I only wore them for a while. But then I kind of like from that point, then I kind of realized if I really want it, I'll buy it, or if I really want it, I will ask for it. But just being given stuff that will just sit there, it's not particularly right long term.
No, not at all. Not from a sustainable point of view. And I think a lot of people are realizing that as well. Just the mass consumption before the pandemic hit. You know, we were all on this conveyor belt, and it was insane the amount of times we were flying around. Literally, people flying for a client meeting for an hour and then flying back again.
Yeah, I mean, I should have been in LA in January, then Miami, then we were invited to Switzerland. Switzerland, Miami would have been for 2 days. LA probably would have been for a week. To your point, Switzerland would have been for 2 hours. You know, and again, you know, the client presentations like this aren't the best, but actually having kids bounce around in the background, or I hurt my back in December, and literally my back was trending with all our clients. Literally on these calls with these brands and organizations. Oh, Mark, how's your back? And you go, yeah, it's good, thank you. Oh yeah, like, oh yeah, you should do this up dog, down dog. Now, if we were in a professional environment, all that would have been hidden. That would have been all behind a veneer of professionalism and going to people's offices. So as much as I'd love to be in Miami now, and as much as I'd love to be, I think this more access to people has been like a gift. You know what I mean? It's like you see more humanity like this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's an interesting situation happened to me. There's this financial director, and I've been in the industry for 10 years and he's been in the industry for years, and every meeting he'd be in a suit and we'd be in an office and it'd be such a formal negotiation. And then I saw him in a hoodie in his spare room, and it completely humanized him in a way that, and the whole experience just changed.
Yeah, so I'm not in the house, but like usually a cat would be walking around in his bum. Would be on the call now. There's James in Amsterdam, and he's got they've got a new pup, and literally this pup has been on all the client calls, and the clients go, oh yeah, can you bring toast out? And he look at his, and again, it's endearing and humanizing, and you know what I mean. And I think that's one of the things that you probably wouldn't got if we'd met in a formal environment.
And I think we're all going through this experience together, like the pandemic. We're all in the same storm. Some of us are in different boats, and that in it together thing, I think, has cemented relationships more so, and it's kind of been a bit more supportive. But so going back to like the structure of Rosie Lee and Against Time, obviously now everyone went from being in the studio of Rosie Lee to working from home. Do you imagine people start going back to the office? How do you feel as an owner of the businesses with that approach?
We've got, if I take a helicopter view, we have 4 businesses. One's in Broome, one's in Amsterdam, one's in London, one's in New York. That's not the case now. We've got, there's someone in Toulouse, there's someone in Milan, someone in Berlin, a team. We're scattered, and it's kind of great in that respect. Literally, I mean, it's not working from home; it's work from anywhere. So even though I can't wait to be back in the studio and listening to people, the energy, listening to music, and collaborating. I can't imagine we'll be going back in, but I think most offices will change into being like, okay, this is where the soul is, and maybe people just going for 2 days a week, and they come together for like war rooms or creative sessions. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it will be a workspace. It will be a community interacting kind of like huddle, where people come together and say, hey, we're working on this band. Like, everyone comes in, we listen to this music, everyone goes, bloody hell, or some people go to this, and then, you know what I mean? That kind of chemistry comes, and then we just go back. So I think it is an elastic kind of concept. Yeah, and that's something I'm struggling with a little bit. So how do we do this? Because some people do and don't want to come in and all that. But I think, okay, then let's reframe what an office is, what our studio is. And that's what we're advising a lot of our clients is, okay, then there's going to be a lot of people that want to go back to work, but they don't want to. So what is work? Do you make sure there's food there, there's yoga there, and things like that? So what work is more than work? It is a community, it's a networking space, it's a concepting space, it's things like that. But, to your point, why spend 2 hours a day commuting? So, what I mean? I don't mind commuting in now. It's actually quite pleasant commuting in at the moment. Not that I have, but if I have to do it every day, I'd be quite fatigued, I can imagine. If that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I like what you say about, the work environment being, an environment where there's a community and people bouncing ideas with each other and energy sharing, like in person. I think, the fixed office space working 9 till 6 was very much off the back of the Industrial Revolution. Everyone was saying it for years. We don't have to go into a factory for actual labour of, being in front of machines and creativity, and can it be something that's done from home? And as long as people are hitting deadlines and producing what needs to be produced, can there be some flex?
I think there's some caveats with that, because if we're not working from home, then we're all together separately, then are we a company? What is a company, in that respect? And then also, where is the soul? Where is the kind of like the culture of a business? Or are we essentially just independence, and it's like the call center type thing, and everyone, so we do need to try and reconcile what is the glue of a physical space, and things like that. And then also, I think anyone that's probably listening, I can imagine if your boss wants you to go in and you don't want to, then your boss can say, well, let's close the office down. And if you close the office down, then why do you need people in London? Then you can go, oh, actually, I can have people in Edinburgh, this. And then so it's very interesting. It's like from our point of view, I'm trying to reconcile where is Rosie Lee, or where is Against Time, and virtually anywhere. But I'm trying to reconcile where is the soul, or where is the epicenter. Do you know what I mean? It's a kind of tough one. Do you know what I mean? It's an office and a space is a concept. It's what is that new concept?
Yeah, exactly. And I think these are the most fascinating discussions to be having, is like you say, where is the soul? Where's the hub that people go to, where they're reinvested back into what they're doing, in the culture, and even networking. I love networking, like all these talks that I've been doing on panels, and then it's really weird when it finishes and you've got all this adrenaline and you shut your laptop down. I miss people. I miss having a beer with someone at the end and having a nice chat and sharing ideas, and the conversation that can come from that is sometimes more valuable than the panel discussion itself.
There's the organicness of walking past someone's Mac and go, oh, I like that. Have you thought about this? Or sometimes they used to annoy our designers. They'd go downstairs and make a coffee, and I'd get onto their computer and move things around a little bit. James would change people's screen backgrounds and log them out and change the language to Korean or something. But it can be a creative thing, and again, it creates like a human kind of creative bond. So I'm all for working from home, but then equally, what is it? Again, you talk about culture, you talk about soul. A lot of employees want to work in places that stand for something. It's very hard to do that remotely. Do you know what I mean? So because that makes sense. Are we like working for that company? They allow you to bring your dogs. They allow you to work from home. There's always this yoga. There's this. It's very hard to impart culture if you're not in a space to share that culture. So one of the challenges for us and for many organizations, I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree, because that used to be one of the selling points when I used to speak to companies. That what's their company culture like? That's 50-50. It's like, what's the work like? What will I be producing? What will look good for my portfolio for the future? And what's their work culture like?
Yeah.
And that would be a real selling point. Do they have a dog in the office? The amount of people that they're sold because there's a really cute dog there, or one company I worked for, every Friday morning we'd have a fry up. We used to love that, and you'd take turns making it, and you'd all sit on the long table and have your breakfast together on a Friday and just chat. And the fact that will be missing, and how do you connect people when they're not in a physical space?
Yeah, creative. I mean, I'm very, very productive working from home. I can do a lot. When I work on my own projects, I can smash through things and I can work whatever. But if I'm collaborating with our other team members, it's quite hard to jam. And we talk about having multiple connections on a Zoom call. So I'll be talking to you now. There'd be another, like my phone would be pointing at my sketchbook, if I was doodling. So I think there needs to be smarter tools for that. But then equally, people get Zoom fatigue. Jamming in person is different to jamming via Zoom or Hangouts, things like that. So
Yeah, I agree. And Zoom fatigue, it's such a real thing. Like, I always ask people, would you prefer the phone? Because everyone's so keen to just say, should we Zoom, when it could have been a phone call, I find. Whereas I always say, well, hang on, should we just have this as a phone call?
Yeah,
Rather
it's like Clubhouse. You know, it's like I can just listen to it while I'm cooking or whatever, or doodling. You know, I can listen to it and participate, and it's not fully, it's engaging, but not, I don't have to invest fully to it. You know what I mean? It's like it would be rude now if I start drawing now, you know. But I think some of that we have to kind of overcome.
Yeah, I agree. And it's always, where do you look when you're talking? It feels strange staring into the camera,
Yeah,
staring at someone you're
I,
there.
I have a learning difference, so I'm easily distracted. You know, there's birds. I've got like literally there'll be foxes walking by in a minute, or this and that, and suddenly, you know, I think I said last time I literally was on a call with a client, and I had all the doors open, and all the birds were making a racket. And literally, I'm on a phone to the client. I said, "Sorry, one moment." I literally picked up my remote control to turn down the birds, and everyone's like laughing at me. And I just realized what I'd done. You know, you kind of forget we're in these little bubbles. You know, I'm very, very fortunate to have this space. Some people don't. You know, there's 2 or 3 people in one space. You know, people are working on their beds and things like that. So one of the things that we're doing is trying to give people working home allowance, or again, Victoria, she's in France, we give her budget to go hire a little office nearby where she can step out, things like that. So yeah, it's whatever we can do to enable a good working environment.
Yeah. And that's going back to what you said about how suddenly you have access to people that are not just in London, that can be all over the UK. Because happiness levels, someone was telling me about a report about in London had gone down, but across the rest of the UK had gone up, because all of a sudden people were having access to jobs and bookings and clients that they didn't because they weren't based in London.
Yeah, I'm seeing a big shift. You know, you see it in Silicon Valley, you see it in London. You know, again, you know, I think I've even reached out to you. Hey, we need some people. I don't care where they are. You know, as long as they've got good internet. You know, and again, you know, yeah, it's a very interesting kind of thing to be mindful of. You know, you're not competing with a London. I think any designers that are in London, they're competing with other London people. Now you're competing with everyone who's got internet access. So it's that's a two-way street, you know. So it's quite exciting, but then equally very, very competitive as well.
Yeah, and I noticed in 2020, 2021, I've had loads of European clients reach out to me. So I'm doing like European recruitment now, whereas before it was all London centric, and that was where it was all based, and that was it.
Yeah, you know, if I'm working literally, well, I just thought of it now, you know, from one point of view, why aren't we talking to designers in Rwanda to help us design this project?
Yeah.
You know, or you know, we've got a friend as well who is in New York, and he's learning Spanish, paying, you know, $200 an hour for someone. Now he's speaking to someone in Mexico City for $40 an hour. You know, so you know the digital access is pretty impressive, but then it's interesting when you kind of see both sides of that. You know, you have to kind of not innovate, but I suppose just be ready for. I mean, that's the digital physical thing. It again is like you've got a global audience should you choose to play in that arena.
So my last question for you, Mark, and then I'll go on to the Q&A. So if anyone's got any questions that they'd like to ask, please ask them now. But what projects should we look out for in the future? Is there anything, I know obviously you've got NDAs and stuff, but is there anything we can?
I am incredibly superstitious.
Okay.
So I try not to talk about. I'll drop hints, I'll drop stuff, and I'll say, oh yeah, keep an eye out for that. There's lots of stuff that just pops up and go, yep, we did that, or yes, we had a part to play in that. I think some of the stuff that's dropping now, StockX, we did some interesting global talks. One was in Toronto last month, Last week was in Berlin. I think there's some due for Tokyo and things like that. That's quite exciting. Hopefully a new project we've done for them. It's actually an old project that we're hoping that this is going to be in the Design Museum, talking about the trends and data around sneaker culture. The guys have just in Amsterdam have just finished an Oakley campaign with a canoa, a surfer, and Chaz, a cyclist. That's dropping now. I know there's some branding work that we're doing for Wave Gen, and I think that's the thing. It's not so much. There's aspects of the work we do that obviously people see, but there's things that we do that's pretty intangible. And I think don't think of it like a spider's web. I'm looking forward to the work that will be out maybe in the coming on Monday with Weave Skills and the positioning work we're doing for Belega and things like that. It's pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, you sound so busy. I know you've approached me about some freelance requirements. The fact that you guys are so busy at the moment with loads going on.
Well, it's this is probably the call out. We're working. We're designing 2 spaces in LA. No, 2 spaces in LA, 2 spaces in Miami. Again, anyone that has an understanding of things like that, just reach out. We're looking for collaborators here, there, and everywhere. Anyone who's curious enough and wants to know about Kazi and want to know about stuff like that, reach out. We're always looking for animators, CGI coders, people that think different, or even people that want to, again, want to start a brand. So yeah, I'd say we're busy as we choose to be in that respect. You're going to make your own bed in that respect. So yeah, reach out if you want to support or you're curious or whatever.
What would be the best way for people to reach out?
Osmosis.
Because I'd imagine you're super busy yourself, Mark.
Actually, please, people say that a lot. I have our Rosie Lee team. Oh, Mark, you're really, really busy. I'm not that busy. And again, going back to the Rosie Lee thing and the against time thing. Oh, you wouldn't be interested in this, or oh, we don't think just ask. Please, shoot a message. Send an email, or what's the worst that can happen? I may not get back to you that day, but that's when you just reach out. Market against time. Against pi.me. Just hit me up. I'm very easily found. All our team is again, Russell is, Victoria is, Toby and Alex. If you want CGI brand, if you're a budding CGI person, speak to Alex. If you're, graphics and things like that, Toby and Victoria. If you're into strategy and cheese and bees and fine wine and ale, Russell. And then you've got the Rosie creative like James and Stein and things like that. It's pretty easy to work it out, but hit me up and I can kind of quite easily link you up with the right people.
You've always been really approachable like that, because everyone's in different, and I remember you said in our last talk that you're okay with a junior knocking on the door, and if you've got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and bearing in mind they're prepared, it's almost like don't reach out unless you've actually, if you're going to reach out to Mark, I'd say make sure you've got a really slick portfolio or CV.
Well, it doesn't have to be slick, because I think the watch out is that it's never slick enough. There's people, oh yeah, we even speak to our team, I get really frustrated when people wait for the deck to be finished to share it. So, hey, it's still work in progress. My portfolio nearly is done, or I've got this thing. It's not quite, as long as you kind of communicate that. Tom Phillips, I'm sure you won't mind. He was the first person we ever employed. And he came in with his work that was in a cardboard envelope. It looked like it was bad. It was so bad, right? And he had tape all over it, But we saw past that. We saw his energy, saw the work, so don't fall into the perfect mode, because it will never be finished in that respect. So just reach out. Just, as long as you set it up the right way, I'm always receptive. Someone did that for me. I think Adrian Shaughnessy, I think most of you people should know about him. I knocked on the door at Intro, and I came down from Birmingham. I've never even heard of Intro. I just walking by with my portfolio at the time, knocked on the door, he popped his head out and he said, yeah, sure, I've got 10 minutes. Chatted, he gave me what was then the Bible, which is like the Creative Handbook, sent me on my way. And I always think fondly of him, just taking that. He was very successful, very, very busy, and he took 10 minutes out for me. So wicked, on where I can, I try to do that as well, or at least challenge our team to do it as well.
Okay, brill. So anyone listening, it doesn't have to be the finished, slick, polished article, just something to show that would be interesting. Was it over? So question that I've got here from, does Mark have any advice for someone setting up a graphic design studio on their own in terms of getting your name out there and attracting new clients?
What is graphic design? Firstly, I don't know. That's, of course I know what graphic design is. I think, I'm a strong believer, but I don't recognize the industry that I was trained in. It's unrecognizable. Same for photography, same for film. Just do it. Again, all you need is a sketchbook, a pen, and a phone. You don't need a studio. You don't need business cards. You don't need this. It's actually, if you, like I said, if you wait for it to be perfect, you'll always never. Our first studio was in the hairdressers in Shoreditch, and like literally hair used to fall down when we were working, and literally go to Nike and go, and like hair was like, just start. It's easier than before. Perhaps it's really great. LinkedIn, Instagram, and things like that. Super competitive, of course, but the barriers to entry are really, really easy now. And yeah, just go for it, and maybe do homage logos to people. Like we do a Polaroid logo and things like that. Use things like Typopia, Logo Archive to express things, experiment, show work in progress. There's some great creative platforms out there for showing your thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice, is just start, just go for it. And even if it's not perfect, just that initial step. And sometimes it's nice to design for companies you want to work for. I know Yaza Twins, they won a huge account because they did a rebrand that company didn't ask them to do it, but then they did, and they loved it so much they commissioned them to work for them.
We did the same years ago. We redesigned Polaroid, Microsoft, Labor, and things like that. And we created these alternate branding and sent it round as posters, and again, that opened doors, so yeah, there's all kinds of interesting forums out there to kind of show, consumer readaptations or think different type stuff. There's all kinds of design activism, WHO, the Call for Creatives, they did last year. There's all kinds of great things, challenging your skills and, support a community. We help people like Trap Mafia, Run Them Crew as well. So it's a part of our kind of relationship. We support them with graphics, and they run around London, kind of try to motivate people to do cool stuff. So again, find a collaborator of some kind or platform, whether that can be a small artisan bakery like Graham's in Amsterdam, which we did, or Corey and Charlie, Track Mafia, Run Them, things like that. Just find platforms to kind of do work for. Do free work as well. Free work is subjective, but you need a portfolio to have context.
Yeah, when I had a chat with Vic Lee last week that did the Corona Diaries. I don't know if you've seen them. But he was talking about when you're working on certain projects, it's about working out like the longevity of the work. Like, even though this might be free, will this pay off for me in another way? Sometimes it's not all about the financials of an exact price you'll get paid for a project. It's where could it lead to?
You know, between you and them, they don't know that you did it for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, between you and them, you know, whatever. And again, you never know, you know. Yeah, I've got stuff behind me that I've done for free, and then, well, free is respected, you know. But the thing is, it's not really about that. It's about now that work is now living and in the wild, and you never know where it goes. And again, there's great mock-up tools and PSD files to kind of help work look like it. You know what I mean? It's a catch-22 doing those kind of design mock-ups. But I think if you can find a small business or a startup or things like that and support them, we help people like Plant Daddy and things like that, where we like their mission statements, we like their values. So yeah, we'll support, you know, we'll put our team with them, and our team will learn with them, and then potentially we grow with them, and we can be their agency. We're doing it with Tigo, do Preview. Now we're ongoing partners with them. We worked with Preview 3 years ago in New York, you know, at cost, and then now we're opening stores in Miami and LA for them, and you know, we're part of the family, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's great. I've got one last question for you, Mark, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
If that's okay. So one question is, I'm finding it hard to find a job right now. I'm finding myself doing freelance. I always feel like I'm missing out because I don't have industry experience. What advice can you give to someone like me who feels all over the place because of lack of experience?
Tough one. I'm on the fence with work placements. It's going to sound contentious, you know, especially now. I want to give work placements. I want to support people and ask them to help work on projects. But, you know, again, yes, we're busy, but we don't have that much money to give. So, you know, it's a really kind of tough one to kind of like, how do you get in? Does that, especially now, it's a bit of a tough one, but I think if you can, you know, try to do work placements again. Personally, for me, when I worked in London, I worked for free. I made sure that you know, they had no reason to let me go. You know, there was no reason, and I worked in bars in the week. You know, so I was learning and learning and learning. You know, getting access to clients, learning, and then you put your hat in the ring, and then that's how it kind of works. It's tough, you know, but then I get that you shouldn't work for free as well. You know, it's very hard. But what I would say with people working from home now, certain overheads, i.e. living in London, hopefully things like that kind of smooth that out. You know, if you are, do you know what I mean? It's like in the past, someone would have to live in London, commute to get to the office and things like that. So I don't know. I know it's a problematic thing, but I know it's tough. You know, as much as I love, I mean, Against Time is different. We bring in interns, we talk about it. We do work on sensitive projects, whereas Rosie Lee works on highly sensitive projects. So it's a bit hard to kind of like have those sort of people around to mentor and learn and teach. But it's more so, sometimes it's not about ability, it's more about, is that person's head screwed on? You know what I mean? It's a very, I'd have to meet someone to go, here, this person's great creative, but also understands the gravity of having access to our Nike folders or our Coty work or things like that, or athlete stuff. So, you know, and again, it's tough. I didn't really answer that, but I think reach out to me, and depending where you are, maybe to hook you up with friends with studios or clients that are maybe looking for freelance stuff. And again, just being persistent. I think one of the biggest skills that I think a creative needs today is not so much creativity, it's a thick skin. You know, it's tough out there. Rejection after rejection, you know, people can be challenging, clients can be challenging and things like that. it's resilience. I think that's the one thing I think people need to have.
Yeah, I agree with you there about resilience and just not giving up, knowing that and I know that's really easy for us to advise at the moment. I know when like you're a junior and you're starting out, it's tough, but we've all been juniors at one point. I think the industry's always been tough as well. It's always been a struggle to get into, depending, like throughout, not even depending, sorry, but it's always been quite a challenge. So just keep going, keep creating. Go on the dots, have a really good ask section where you can ask to get involved in projects with people, and just try and pick up some working briefs if you can.
Yeah, there's
at home.
I was listening to an athlete, swimmer on the news this morning, and he was saying like he backs himself. He knows when he gets on that podium and he's going to dive, he's looking around like. So if you believe in yourself and things like that, that's the thing. It's belief, but tempered with obviously a little bit of humility as well, because you can't just walk in, right, I want to be CD, But I think it's more so what's up there as opposed to what you can do with your mouse or pen. So it's we connect with people, what's in there, what are they thinking about, what are they passionate about, more than ability, so yeah.
Well, what makes a great creative is every life experience they've had and observations they've made of the world expressed into their work, and bringing ideas, bringing a voice, bringing an opinion to the studio and pushing the project forward.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. We get asked to do a lot of spatial work and all kinds of things, and we're not architects or spatial designers, but we go into spaces all day, every day. But if I don't know how to run a restaurant, but I know what I like when I go there. So again, our team, they are fans of the things they work on. When they want to see a release, or they want to go to, what do they want to see? What really upsets them when they go to the changing rooms in the gym? Oh, that really upsets me. Bring those. We're all humans. What do you like? What do you like in a restaurant? What do you like when what the bounce is at? That's what it means. That's bring your whole self. And if you are into music or into food or into culture and stuff, bring that to bear, because especially with the industry now, it's more about content, more about point of view. And like take from Toby, he's really into football or soccer, depending where you are in the world. Just put in with skills. Hey, you guys need to talk, and they can talk football all day long, and still do graphics as well. I can't talk about football. That's one of the big jokes. All the Man United Arsenal work that I did, I knew nothing about football, but that was kind of good because I came with a fresh perspective.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, Mark, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone that's tuned in. I hope you got a lot out of that. I found that really interesting. I got a lot out of that conversation that we had.
I think, here I am in a perceived lofty position. Again, as soon as you stop learning, you might as well stop. So I learned a lot from this. Every time I meet someone, young or old or whatever, we were talking last night to someone, and they said, thank you for mentoring us. And I said, no, you've been mentoring me. You just don't, I'm kind of like, what I mean? It's a transaction of such where, wow. So yes, just be open to every opportunity, every conversation, and it makes you a better person.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks again. And take care everyone, and have a good day.
Yeah, and again, hit us up if you want a shoulder to cry on, or have a point of view. Always willing to support.
Good.
Thank you.
Take care.